We're introduced to Duel, an orc and chieftain of the Frostwolf clan, discussing the name of his future son with his wife Draka. They share one last quiet night together before heading to a gathering of other orc clans. Thousands of orcs have been summoned by Gul'dan, a warlock and leader of the orc army, known as the Horde. Gul'dan is checking the final battle preparations while accompanied by a female half-orc, Garona, who acts as his translator to other races. A caged prisoner begs Garona to spare her child, but Gul'dan refuses, intending to drain the very life force of every last prisoner to fuel his evil fell magic. The orc homeworld Draenor is being torn apart by the same fell magic. This is why Gul'dan has built a portal connecting their world to another called Azeroth, so they can conquer it for themselves. But at the moment, he only has enough prisoners to send a warband consisting of the strongest orc warriors. Their immediate purpose is to collect more prisoners from Azeroth to use as fuel so they can open the portal permanently. Gul'dan drains the life energy from the prisoners and opens the portal. Duel, his wife, his second-in-command Orgrim, and his clan enter the portal. After passing through the portal, Draka feels pain and gives birth with the aid of Gul'dan, despite other orcs' objections. The baby is dying, but Gul'dan uses his fell magic to drain the life of a nearby deer and to revive the baby, announcing him as the newest warrior for the Horde. Later in Azeroth, we see Anduin Lothar, one of the king's most trusted warriors, inspecting a newly invented mechanical gun called a boomstick in the dwarven city of Ironforge. Before he thoroughly inspects it, a messenger delivers a letter saying one of his garrisons has been attacked and he is needed at the king's castle in Stormwind immediately. At the castle, Lothar confronts a prisoner named Khadgar, who he prevents from casting a spell to attack him. Lothar notices a strange mark known as the Mark of the Kirin Tor on Khadgar's arm. Khadgar explains he used to be a guardian novitiate who has a sacred duty to protect the realm from any danger, but renounced his vow. He asked to examine the body of the slain soldiers because it may contain the secret to the attacks. The men are surprised when a faded green light spews out from one of the bodies. Khadgar recommends summoning the guardian immediately, but Lothar warns that the guardian is only summoned by the king, Lane Rin. So they travel to meet the king at Goldshire. While there, Lothar also meets with his sister, who is also the king's wife, Lady Tariarin, and his son Callan. King Lane agrees to call for the Guardian after learning how dangerous this new threat truly is, and instructs Lothar and Khadgar to travel to Karazhan, giving Lothar his blue ring as a direct message for Medivh, the Guardian. The two men soon arrive to Karazhan, a massive tower stronghold with a magical aura visibly flowing around it. They are greeted by Moros, who says the Guardian will be happy to see Lothar as he takes him up the tower's many stairs. At the top of the tower, Lothar finds Medivh sculpting a massive golem out of clay. Khadgar is left to wander the tower's library, where he sees a shadowy figure disappear into a bookshelf. While searching for the figure, Khadgar's mark glows brightly and guides him to a particular book, which he stuffs into his bag. He's then thrown around the room by the Guardian's magic, who is upset to find Khadgar here after renouncing his vow, but he is released just as swiftly after telling Medivh about the fell magic in the body. Medivh explains to Lothar that fell magic promises great power, but it exacts a terrible price by feeding on life itself and polluting whoever uses it. Learning that fell magic is in Azeroth, the Guardian casts a spell that teleports the three men directly to King Lane's throne room in Stormwind. Reports from across the surrounding kingdoms claim they were attacked by some kind of giant monsters who ride on large wolves. Lothar says they need to capture prisoners, or even just a corpse, to learn more about their new enemies. So Lothar, Medivh, Khadgar, and a platoon of soldiers travel to Elwyn Forest to search for any possible leads. After finding abandoned supply carts and traces of fell magic burned onto trees, the group is ambushed by orcs of the Frostwolf clan, led by Duel. Both sides suffer casualties. After saving Callan, Lothar protects himself from an orc by using the dwarven boomstick he received earlier. The battle ends when Medivh casts a spell that kills only the green orcs corrupted by the fell magic. The Frostwolf orcs, including Duel and Orgrim, do not have traces of fell magic in them, so they can escape. Medivh tells Khadgar to bring the men back to the castle as he teleports back to Karazhan, but Lothar and the others are already giving chase, as they need a prisoner. During the chase, Durotan frees the half-orc Gul'dan from the chain collar that's stuck to a dead orc, but she only ends up being captured by Khadgar's magic. Lothar also captures another orc by having his horse kick the orc in the chest. However, the orc is later killed for becoming enraged and trying to kill Gul'dan for speaking with the humans. Since she can speak the human language, Gul'dan is taken before the king. Gul'dan reveals to the humans that she's not from their world at all, and that the orcs are taking human prisoners to feed the Felgate and bring the rest of the Horde to conquer their world. King Lane promises her freedom if she chooses to help them. Later that night, Medivh secretly questions Gul'dan in the dungeons. She claims that the gate to Azeroth was revealed to Gul'dan by a demon, but Medivh then disappears as other people enter the dungeons. Queen Taria gives Gul'dan a warm drink and blankets, and after seeing the collar around her neck, offers Gul'dan a chance to live freely. But as she empathizes with the prisoner, Lothar watches from afar with the boomstick in his hand. Elsewhere in the orc camp, warband leader Blackhand is judged by Gul'dan for being weak, as escaping a battle is not considered honorable for the orcs. He's sentenced to death and sticks his hand into a fire of fel magic, which slowly crawls across his entire arm, turning his flesh into ash. But Blackhand is saved from death when Durotan severs the corrupted limb and informs Gul'dan that the humans' magic was used against them. Gul'dan furiously declares only he has power over the fel, and the nearby fel orcs momentarily tense up in response. Lothar and Khadgar are led to the orc warband's main camp by Gul'dan. At night, Gul'dan and Khadgar share their backstories. Gul'dan's mother was burned just for giving birth to her, and that her own name means cursed in the orc language. Khadgar was given away by his parents to be trained by the Kirin Tor when he was 6 and never saw his family again, even after running away. The group later spies on the orc camp from above. Lothar asks why they have so many prisoners, and Gul'dan explains fel magic needs life for fuel, just as a fire needs wood. Learning that the orcs plan to bring the entire horde to Azeroth, Lothar rides ahead to warn the king. Durotan and Orgrim earlier agreed that they needed help from the humans to stop Gul'dan's terrible magic from killing this world, just as it did their own. After catching the group spying on their camp, Durotan asks Gul'dan to relay a message that he wants to meet with the human leader, and she agrees. In Stormwind, King Lane meets with the other races of Azeroth to discuss the orcs, but they do not want to help support Lane's plans of attack since they are busy with their own kingdoms. Gul'dan later delivers Durotan's message to the king, who deduces that Durotan is truly terrified of the fel, and he cannot overcome the threat alone. Lothar is worried it's a trap, but King Lane is convinced by Gul'dan's depiction of Durotan, saying Durotan wants to protect his clan and that the fel is also his enemy. Wanting to earn one another's trust, Queen Taria gives Gul'dan a blade to defend herself with. After Medivh sees how far the fel has spread across the kingdom, Moros suggests that Khadgar might be of help. Medivh appears in Khadgar's room and sees all of his research notes. Khadgar says that he might have wanted help, to which the Guardian responds by magically burning all of Khadgar's research and reminding him that he's not the Guardian, at least not yet. He also reclaims the stolen book. However, Khadgar manages to save one piece of research in his robes. The clues suggest that something summoned the orcs to Azeroth from this side of the gate, and mentions the name Alodai. Despite objections from Orgrim, Durotan's friend, Durotan meets with King Lane to unite the Frostwolf clan and the humans against Gul'dan. With Gul'dan translating, Durotan explains that the human prisoners will be fed to power the Great Gate in 2 days. If the humans attack the camp and distract the orc warband, Durotan promises his clan will kill Gul'dan. All of a sudden, both parties are ambushed by a group of fel orcs. Blackhand appears to be leading the ambush, and we see Orgrim standing beside him on the cliffs. Medivh summons a powerful wall of lightning to separate the two groups, but his efforts arrive too late. A group of soldiers are trapped with the orcs, among them being Callan. Lothar is unable to breach the barrier and is forced to watch as Blackhand murders his son. After finding Medivh rendered unconscious, Gul'dan and Khadgar take him to be healed back at Karajan. But Khadgar notices a green light from Medivh's eyes and deduces that he is somehow involved in the fel magic, and immediately leaves to get the help of the Kirin Tor. Garona stays behind to watch over Medivh as he recovers. They speak, and Garona blames herself for getting Lothar's son killed and worries that he'll hate her. Medivh comforts her with a tale of a long-lost love from his youth, telling her that it's worth going to the ends of the earth for love. He then sends Garona to Lothar using a teleportation spell. In the orc camp, Blackhand threatens Durotan for his treachery, but he backs off when Durotan vows to surrender himself so that his clan remains unharmed. Durotan instructs Draka to leave with their son, whom he names Goel. As another father is separated from his son, we briefly see Garona find and comfort a drunken Lothar as he deeply mourns over his son's death. At the same time, Orgrim speaks with Gul'dan, who offers to grant Orgrim the gift of the Fel. Hesitant, Orgrim says he wants to be given the Fel in front of the whole Frostwolf clan, so they see how powerful he becomes. In the distance, other orcs are constructing a massive gateway with statues of a hooded figure. But as Orgrim goes to gather the Frostwolf clan, he discovers that Fel orcs are raiding their camp, killing or imprisoning everyone. Orgrim rushes into the fight to find Draka's tent, who is furious with him, telling Orgrim that he should have trusted his chieftain. Remorseful for his actions, Orgrim gives Draka time to flee with her son as he fights off the Fel orcs. Khadgar returns to Dalaran, the flying city of the Kirin Tor, who are furious when he claims the Guardian is infected with Fel. But they are surprised when he asks about Alodai. They show Khadgar a large magical cube-shaped object, which they believe to be a protector entity like the Guardian. When they mention the dark portal in front of the entity, it opens a doorway into itself. Khadgar steps inside and discovers the true Alodai is a woman, who reveals that Medivh has betrayed them after becoming corrupted by the Fel, and that Khadgar and his allies must stand together if they wish to save the world. We look back to Karazhan as Moros tries to help Medivh recover. But Medivh reveals that he's been consumed by the Fel and kills Moros by draining his life force. King Lane agonizes over his options to defend his kingdom, but Lothar suggests they instead throw everything they have at the orcs' magic gate. Medivh appears and Lothar expresses his anger at him for indirectly killing his son. The king sends Lothar to a cell to calm down, while Medivh stays to further deceive Lane. Garona visits Lothar to tell him the king is going to assault the gate. Lothar warns her not to trust Medivh, and that he wants her to not get hurt and stay behind. But she refuses. Instead, she gives Lothar her necklace made with her deceased mother's tusk before leaving to depart with the king and his army, with Medivh leaving for Karazhan, claiming he's preparing for battle. Sometime later, Khadgar returns to Stormwind and rescues Lothar from his cell. Although Lothar insists on following the king, Khadgar convinces him to help stop Medivh so that all of Azeroth will remain safe. Elsewhere, Draka brings Goel to a river and lets the water carry his basket to safety as she stays behind, tragically being killed like the rest of the Frostwolf clan. After being freed from his cell by Orgrim, Durotan challenges Gul'dan to Magora, a traditional duel to the death for leadership of the orcs, which Gul'dan accepts. As the two engage in a brutal duel, Lothar and Khadgar arrive at Karazhan as Medivh, who is turning into a demon from the Fel corruption, begins casting the incantation to open the portal to the orcs' homeworld. They try to stop Medivh, but his power is too strong. Seeing the portal, Gul'dan wants to quickly finish the duel, but Blackhand urges him to honor the tradition and stay fighting. He then cheats by draining Durotan's life force, which invokes anger from the surrounding orcs. A weakened Durotan tells Gul'dan that he has no honor before the last of his life is drained from his body, and he dies. Several orcs try to rebel against the demonic Gul'dan, but he kills them too, then corrupts Blackhand with the Fel before commanding the rest of the warband to attack the incoming humans. A grand battle begins between the human and orc armies. Lothar and Khadgar continue to try and stop Medivh, but he brings the clay golem to life and attacks them with it. Lothar nearly falls from the tower's window after cutting off its head, but luckily his shoes had sunk into its back. Gul'dan uses the life energies of human prisoners to fully open the gate, allowing the Horde to begin pouring into the battlefield. At the tower, Khadgar tells Lothar to distract Medivh so he cannot recite the incantation to keep the portal open. Lothar calls out to Medivh, believing his good self is still inside the demon entity. We see a glimpse of Medivh's true self, before the demon steps into the corrupt pool of magic and physically grows in both size and strength. But Khadgar teleports the headless golem on top of Medivh, pinning him down and cutting off the incantation. Khadgar directly confronts the demon and risks becoming corrupt as well, but he is stronger than the Fel and successfully casts a purification spell so powerful it sends a shockwave roaring hundreds of miles out from Karajan. Lothar then departs for the battlefield on a griffin. Medivh, returned to human form, uses the Orcs' gateway to open a portal to Stormwind while dying. King Lane and his forces defend the portal, freeing as many prisoners as they can and sending them to Stormwind. But Medivh soon dies, shedding a final tear as he apologizes to Khadgar, causing the portal to close once again and leading to the remaining humans to be quickly overrun. Garona sees the corrupt Black Hand coming to claim the honor of killing King Lane. Knowing it will do no good for them both to die, Lane instructs Garona to kill him instead. By killing the king, she would become a hero to the Orcs and would be able to carve the way for achieving peace between humans and Orcs. Lane turns his back to Garona and lets himself be killed. The battle ends with Gul'dan and the army honoring Garona as a hero, while Garona silently cries. Lothar arrives on the griffin, but realizing he's too late, he instead tries to recover the king's body, only to be knocked out. Lothar awakes in the middle of the Magora tradition, organized by the corrupted Black Hand. He is given King Lane's sword as a weapon, which he uses to easily kill Black Hand. Gul'dan orders the Orcs to kill him anyway, but Garona convinces him that if he doesn't honor the sacred tradition, no Orc will follow him anymore. Lothar is allowed to leave with the king's body. After noticing Garona's blade in Lane's neck, he assumes that Garona is a traitor. At Lane's funeral, the races of Azeroth finally unite to form the alliance against the Orc Horde, and elsewhere on the river, Goel is recovered by humans.